This might be the most important video I ever make. If your life is in absolute shambles right now, the last thing on your mind is what color should I paint my bathroom? I get it. I have been there. Earlier this year, I lost not just my home, but pretty much my entire life in a wildfire. And it has been one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. I've spent the past 6 months like bouncing between temporary homes, trying desperately to find any sense of safety or security as I watch the life that I built for the past 15 years just kind of slip away. So I know how hard it is to feel grounded when you are losing control of your life. I also know firsthand just how much your environment can impact your ability to cope with hard seasons. Because here's the truth, fixing your home will not fix your problems. It won't. It's not going to change the world. It's not going to fix the broken systems. It's certainly not going to erase the pain that you're carrying. But it can make you more resilient because your environment can help regulate your nervous system. That means that when you're living in a state of active traumatic stress, when you're living in survival mode, your space, your environment can literally help take your little lizard brain and shift it out of fight or flight, out of trauma response, out of survival, which helps you. It helps you regulate, it helps you breathe, it helps you calm everything down so that you can see more clearly, so that you can make calmer decisions. And once you are in that state, once you're in that place, then you can start the process of healing, of processing, of grieving, of working through this, because you cannot heal from an activated state. So caring for your home is the first step in caring for yourself. So no, it cannot magically change your situation, but it can change you. And that matters because home is where you heal, right? It's the place that we get to unmask. It's the place that we go at the end of the day where we get to finally take off all of the armor that we put on to go out into the world, because the world is not inherently a safe place for most of us. But when you come home, you get to shed that armor. You get to find softness. But if you have to continue to wear that armor in your home because the neighbors can see into the windows, or because the light in the kitchen doesn't work, or because your Craigslist roommate has their friends over, if you have to keep wearing your armor in order to protect yourself from your own home, you never get the chance to be soft. You never get the chance to heal. You cannot wear your armor 24/7. It's too heavy. We're not built for that. And you can't heal with it on. Think about it, right? When a knight is wounded in battle, they don't try and stitch the wound through the chest plate. You have to get that warrior to a safe place where it's safe to remove the armor, literally, so that you can get into the soft, fleshy wound and try and heal it. That's what we're talking about today. How to make your home a safe place for you to remove your armor so that you can heal your wounds. I truly believe that the information in this video can be the difference between surviving a hardship and letting it absolutely crush you. And I am speaking from firsthand experience. So if you are going through a hard time right now, you need this video. And if you're not going through a hard time right now, I think that you need this video even more, because your hard time will come. Your rough patch, your rainy season will come one day. I'm sure you've already had a few, and you're gonna have a few more. It's the way of life. And I wish that someone had told me it is easier to create a home that nourishes you before you need it. I wish that I had had the opportunity to set myself up for success to get through my hard season. So if you're just vibing right now, do yourself a favor and take care of future you. Because future you, the one who is processing the divorce or the job loss or the death of someone you love, future you might not be able to take care of you. And they're going to be so grateful that you put in the work ahead of time. So today we're walking through a straightforward, simple 3-point process to help you make small, simple, supportive shifts to help create a home that's going to hold you in hard times. And we're not talking major renovations. Okay, these changes do not have to be expensive, do not have to be hard, do not have to be time consuming. You don't need a brand new IKEA kitchen when your life is falling apart. Okay, that's not the goal. Let's create a home that holds you together when it feels like everything is falling apart. Okay, the first thing we need to do is regain a sense of control. And it's hard because when you're going through a hard time, especially if that hard time has anything to do with your housing, like being evicted or going through a breakup or having your life completely upended by a major natural disaster, then it is easy to feel just a complete loss of agency. And honestly, there's probably a lot that you don't have control over right now. And this is part of why I think home is so important, because when life is lifing, your home might be one of the only things that you actually do have some control over. And I know the voice in your head that's trying to protect you is telling you that I'm wrong. Because truthfully, there are a lot of reasons that you might not feel like you have control over your home. Scummy landlords, predatory housing markets, Craigslist roommates, a home that is literally not your home, right? When we evacuated from the fire, we stayed with family. We were in a guest room in a state that we wanted nothing to do with. And if at that point in my life, anyone had looked at me and said, but home is really the one thing that you do have control over, while I was in the process of actively losing mine, I would have lashed out. Because at that point, I wasn't yet accepting that the home I had agency over was actually this guest room, that this was my surrogate home. And once I accepted that that guest room was home, even if it was temporary, then I was able to see like, okay, there are actually things in this space that I can control. And when I did that, when I actually sat down and said, there's so much in my life that I can't control right now, what is the thing I can control? Everything changed, because that was the first step in me understanding that I actually do have some agency in all of this. So wherever you are right now, take a beat, take a breath, and ask yourself, what can I control right now? What in my environment do I have control over? Maybe it's a lot, right? Maybe you can do literally anything you want because you own your place, because you live alone, because you don't have to answer to anyone. That's amazing. You have a ton of control. Maybe it feels like nothing. Maybe the only things that you have control over are if the window is open or closed, or if the lights are on or off, or if the pile of laundry is on the floor or on the chair. That's okay. Those small things are not small when they're all you have. And starting here, asking yourself this question. And if you need to literally sit down and write a list, that is the first step to beginning to regain a sense of agency in your situation. Once we've got a sense of control and we feel like we can actually make some changes, then steps 2 and 3 are kind of interchangeable. And I think do them in whichever order feels most helpful, like most urgent to you. Step number 2 is to create literal physical and emotional safety for yourself in your home. I call this securing the perimeter. And I really do want you to do this quite literally. I want you to take an assessment of how safe your home is from the outside world, like how safe it physically is. Does your lock on your door work? Are your window screens busted with holes? Can your neighbors see into your front room because you don't have curtains or whatever? So when you're just sitting around watching TV, minding your business, people are watching what you're watching on TV through your window. They know that you're watching Real Housewives again. Like, what are the points that give other people who you have not invited in, or other little critters, other little bugs, access to your home? And then fix them. And it might seem silly if you're in the middle of like grieving the loss of someone you love to focus on replacing the deadbolt, but it matters, because when your life is spiraling, you feel a loss of control. When you feel a loss of control, you feel unsafe. So by doing this, we're putting the control over your physical and therefore emotional safety back into your hands. And then we're going to take it a step further. And you're going to ask yourself, what design choices can I make to reinforce my idea of safety? One morning, I was in a therapy session and I was feeling impressively unregulated. And my therapist asked me, what is it about this moment that's telling you you're safe? Which, first of all, is revolutionary. Everyone should go to therapy. Second of all, my answer surprised me, because I took my moment, I looked around the room, I asked myself this question, and my answer was, Well, the door is closed, so no one can come in. And there's a window, but we're high up on the third or whatever floor. And so no one can come in through the window. My answer was like, all access points secured. So then later, I'm sitting at home feeling similarly unregulated. And I turned to my partner and I was like, I think we need to paint the front door. At the time, the inside of our front door was pink and a really sort of like soft, kind of almost baby pink. It just kind of like disappeared against the wall. In that moment, sitting in the living room, asking myself, what about this moment is telling me that I'm safe? I said, well, the door is closed, but it doesn't necessarily feel as like secure. And I realized it was the design of the door just kind of felt soft and I don't know the word, unsubstantial. And so we painted it black. We added some trim on it. We hung some art around it to give it more visual weight, to give it a feeling of presence, of substance in the home. And it worked. It was almost instant. My feeling of like security in the home was 10x'd because I found a way to visually reinforce my own idea of safety. We took it a step further. We looked at the windows. We swapped out our white, breezy linen curtains for some like dark green with a little more weight. Again, like visually reinforcing like this is a secure point. And I logically know we didn't actually make anything safer physically. This was exclusively design oriented. And so this is going to look different for everyone, right? Because my idea of safety might not be your idea of safety. And actually, in that therapy session, I was completely surprised when my partner's answer was totally different than mine. So again, you're giving yourself control over that physical and emotional safety. And then finally, we're going to work on identifying environmental stressors that are showing up in your home, and we're going to work to fix them. This was a really big light bulb for me recently. What is an environmental stressor? An environmental stressor is any factor in your home or your environment that is causing you a negative physical, emotional, or psychological reaction, right? Anything that is causing you stress. And you know what's wild is I think we often don't even notice these things, or we just kind of accept them because they're small. And so they're just kind of like not a priority in our daily life. And that is so valid. But I really think that you'll be amazed at how big of a difference working on some of these stressors really can make. So what kinds of things should you be looking for when you're trying to identify environmental stressors in your home? We're going to break it down into 5 categories. And just a quick note, we're about to cover a lot of ground and it might seem overwhelming. Just remember that this isn't like a to-do list where you go through and check off every single task. This is a source of inspiration. So take the thing that jumps out at you as relevant to your home and focus on that and only that. Okay, the first category is sensory overload or discomfort. This is things like harsh lighting, like scratchy, uncomfortable fabric, like loud ambient noise, like traffic noise or an appliance that's particularly loud, or neighbors that are making a lot of ruckus all the time. Also things like fluctuating temperatures or like a lack of climate control, uncomfortable furniture that's not really serving you, lighting that's too bright or not bright enough or not suited for the task at hand. Honestly, lighting is a huge one. I would say literally every home has room for improvement in the lighting scape. Even homes that are beautifully lit could probably still bump it up a notch. I really could do an entire video just about how to improve the lighting in your home. And if that feels interesting or useful to you, please let me know in the comments below and I'll get that out for sure. So I want you to ask yourself, what are the sensory elements that are causing you stress in your home? And what can you do to just soften them a little bit? Next up, we have functional friction, things that just aren't really working quite right, like a clunky furniture layout or a system that is really high maintenance and hard to keep up with, or spots that are like hard to clean for whatever reason. So you just kind of let the dirt pile up, and also spaces that don't reflect their actual intended use. So like having a dining room table that is covered in junk mail pile up because that's not what that table is for. And so assess why that's happening and what you can do to fix it. What are these little everyday kind of frictions that are quietly weighing on me, and how can I smooth them out? How can I reduce that friction? It's going to make a big difference. Next, we have neglected touch points. Ooh, this matters. These are spaces that haven't been given the attention they deserve, especially a high touch space or a space that you use every day or multiple times a day. So for example, an entryway that is really uninviting and non-functional, or a kitchen that hasn't been set up and optimized to actually cook in, or a bedroom that doesn't feel restful, or even just a cluttered nightstand or bathroom counter. Another neglected touch point is lack of space for grounding rituals. So for example, for me, my morning coffee is a huge ritual for me. And so I know that when I'm building a home, like having a place for me to sit and drink coffee every morning is an important touch point for me. Do you have space to engage in the rituals that matter to you and the rituals that help you connect with your environment? Then we have atmospheric stressors, which makes me feel like a scientist when I say it. But really, we're talking about stressors in kind of the overall atmosphere of your home. So for example, a space that forces you to make too many decisions every day, or where things are too difficult to find. If you're constantly having to ask yourself, where should I put this? That decision fatigue is going to wear you down over time. Another big one is not having any visual resting spaces. This is an area in your design that offers you a visual pause, a place that your eyes can relax and your mind can kind of wander before you go back to whatever you're doing. This could be a big piece of art on the wall. It could be a decorative corner. It could be a window. When you're sitting in a room, where do your eyes naturally kind of land? Another one is a disconnect between a space's energetic vibe and your emotional needs. For example, if you need a restful space, but that space is really energetic for whatever reason, whether it's the design or the clutter or the people, whatever it is, that's going to be an atmospheric stressor for you. How can you bring those things more into alignment with your needs? And then also just kind of an overall lack of beauty or nature in your home. Can you add something beautiful, even if it's, something thrifted, something small? It doesn't have to be huge. Can you get a plant? A lot of mental health benefits, whole other video, whole other channel, honestly. Or can you open the curtains and let a little sunlight in? Ask yourself, where in my home do I feel overwhelmed and overstimulated? And how can I work to bring in a little more peace? And then finally, emotional disconnection. This is when your home isn't aligned with the emotional space that you're in at this point in your life. For example, if you're surrounded by art or objects that carry an emotional weight that you're no longer aligned with, whether that's gifts from an ex-partner or photos of friends that you've had falling outs with, or objects that you've inherited that carry a lot of emotional baggage for whatever reason. It also could be, unfinished projects or renovations that are kind of in limbo. I was super guilty of this for a long time. I would just kind of start projects with no real plan or resources in place to be able to finish them. And yeah, I lived in a construction zone for many years, and it was really devastating on my nervous system because it signals this kind of impermanence and signals this kind of constant reminder that says, I'm behind. You don't want that. You don't want that when you're going through a hard time. And then finally, this thing that I call showroom syndrome, that is a place that looks really beautiful and put together, like it could be in a magazine, but doesn't feel lived in or personal or inviting. So as you're going through this work, as you're going through all of this, just focus on small changes. Just focus on one step at a time. The idea of home as a sanctuary has always been really important to me, and nothing has challenged that like losing my home, especially in such an unexpected and frankly traumatic way. But it's really challenged my definition of what home is. It's really taught me that home is not where you pay rent. It's not about what color you paint the walls or what furniture you bring in. It's not a building or a paint color or a piece of furniture. Home is a relationship that you build with the space. And part of how we build relationship is through these 3 steps: regain a sense of control, secure the perimeter, reduce environmental stressors. So I want you to sit back, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what about this moment is telling me that I'm safe? Your answer plants the seeds that are going to help you start thinking about your space in a new way. And when you're ready to start taking action on those seeds, when you're ready to start, growing that plant, my video about how to make a house a home is full of a bunch of really great ideas to help you get started. So if you're looking for a little more inspiration, just click the link on screen and I'll meet you there.